there, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we are going to be taking a look at dies, embossing folders and stencils storage. And as with all my storage videos this week, we are going to start with sort of the storage solution, and then we're going to then have a quick peek at the actual crafty stash, so you can, it's like a mini craft room tour. So looking first at the big picture, I've stored my dies etc. in the Kallax unit here, and then a little bit over here, and also above the Kallax unit here in those little sort of shelving units where I've put my stamps. I've just got a few dies up there as well because they were just too big for that shelving unit there. Now you may have noticed that these Kallax here are bigger holes than here. Now if you've watched the overview introduction video, you would have heard me say that what I've done, or I in the royal we, what I've done is get my dad to split the cubbies, as it were, of this Kallax with a shelf halfway up, so that I get a lot more space usage basically, because obviously these here is only taking really half the space, and if I didn't have that shelf up there, all this would be wasted. So what we've got is dies, embossing folders and dies. Then over here I've got dies at the very end there, then a few more dies in the black box magazine holder, as it were, and then the final half of that black box is the large embossing folders. Then on the top, just laying on the top there, is where I've got my stencils. As I said, we got the shelving in there and split that up, but also what I wanted to do was make sure that the boxes that I've used to put the packs with the dies in, which are the Linux fridge drawers, I didn't want them to go all the way to the back of the cubby because it's actually got quite a big gap at the back, and if I'll show you in more detail now, actually it'd be easier. So just pull that out so you can see that when you look at this one, you can see if I push that all the way back, it goes quite a long way. So what I got my dad to do was put these little white blocks in, and actually you don't have to worry that that they're different shapes or sizes of these, because as long as you put those just at the edges, it catches these, whether they're the thin ones, the wide ones or the middle ones, so that's all good. And all those blocks are just the blocks that you use to put the shelves in, and literally all we did with the shelves was we got one long one and my dad just chopped it up into several pieces, and it didn't matter that the edges weren't finished or anything because they were going to be against the sides of the unit, so that was easy. And then all that does was it just holds those little drawers in place. Okay, so what I've got here is, as I said, these fridge drawers, and we've got the different sizes. So I've got the narrow one. Now the reason I've got the narrow one is because I needed the wide one for these bigger packs of dies, and then up here I've got the middle regular sized ones. So then on the next cubby down, I've got the two boxes with embossing folders, and then I've got two more of those drawers with sets of dies. Now originally I thought that the top two would be sufficient for all the dies. I was so kidding myself, so many dies, and I really didn't want to get rid of them. I love my dies. So the reason that I've got the embossing folders sort of in the middle of the dies is because I wasn't expecting that, and I'd already had my dad put the blocks in the right place for those embossing folder boxes, and he would have moved them, that wouldn't have been a problem. But actually I quite liked that they broke up that kind of section of dies. I thought it kind of looked quite nice. I quite liked the way that went, so I wasn't unhappy just for him to add the blocks to the bottom section there, for the boxes, for the drawers with the dies. So I think that worked quite well. So these, by the way, these boxes here for the embossing folders, they are the Deflecto boxes. They are the long ones the 2x1, as it were, boxes that I had underneath my markers that you may have seen in the overview video, or if the markers video has been up already, you would have seen them in that as well. And all I've done is turn them over and use them like boxes to put things in rather than on their side, and it worked really, really well for those embossing folders. And again, I'll show you in more detail in a minute. So up here I've got this wallet. It's a crop hopper mixed collection, and I have got details of that because I know you can just about still get these, I think. And inside, like the big folder thing that comes, you get several of these little ones, and they actually don't fit unless you turn them on the side, so you have to have the open end because otherwise they're just too tall. But they're perfect to put these A4 sized die packs, and I'll show you in a minute in more detail the actual storage of the dies in a second, but I just want to show you kind of more the overview of rather than the specific parts at the moment. So then in this box here, this is like one of those magazine folders. Again, I've got details of this. This is an IKEA one. I got that in black so it would match with my row, my column rather, of colours. And in this is my embossing folders. But I had these dies originally in this wallet as well, in this packet, but it just was too fat, so I decided I had space in this box, so I took some out and just put them in here, and that works perfectly for me. And then the rest of these on there has nothing to do with embossing folders or anything. So that's all the dies on the Kallax units. So we've got the much bigger packets, and then I've got another one of these sort of cropper hopper boxes. This was designed, I believe, for the 6x6 paper pads. It's actually something like about 7 inches, so you've got the space, but it was absolutely perfect for these larger sort of packs of dies. And so it held, like these were one type and these were another type, and it just worked really well. Again, I'm going to show you specifically the packaging and the actual die storage in a minute. This is kind of how I'm storing the packs rather than how the dies are stored yet, but it's sort of one bit at a time so you get an idea of sort of how it all comes together. So that, as I say, is kind of the overview of how I'm storing the packs of dies. So now let's go into the detail of the actual die storage itself and what I've done for that. So let's start with these here. So what we've got is these packets here are Avery L, but they're a really good size for this particular. You can see they fit in perfectly in this drawer when you do them sideways. Now I did them side. If I'd have done them that way up, they would have fit in these drawers, I believe. No problem. Yes, they would have fitted in okay into this unit here. So if you've got the height, then that's great, but I didn't have the height, so I needed to have this wider fridge drawer. So that's the Avery L. Now what I've done on pretty much all my dies is I've taken the packaging and I've cut out the front and stuck it on a piece of white piece of paper, and then on the back of the paper I've put a piece of magnet sheet, and then I've put the dies onto that, and then I've just slid it into the packaging. So quite labour intensive, especially when you're starting from scratch. I think once it's sort of the bulk is done, you've got all your collection done, and then all you're doing is adding to it as and when you purchase new dies, then that's not going to be a problem at all. But when you're starting from scratch, trust me, it takes a long time. I haven't finished yet, but I had more than enough to show you, so you could see exactly what I was doing and how I was sort of planning on storing it. So then what I've done is I've put them, as you can see, into this. It's so heavy, but I don't know if you can just see, I've got pieces of card here, and what I've done is separate using that card. It pokes up the top, I think you can just about see. Oh, it's so heavy I can hardly hold it. And that separates the different companies. So when I like my dies separated into companies, and then within the company I will separate them as best I can into sort of designs. So obviously to a certain extent I'm restricted because of the sizing, so certain sizing ones need to go in a certain packet. For example, here we've got the Swiss collection, and the Swiss collection, so I've kept all that together, and then I've got Pacific collection behind that, etc. And then after we've done all this Sue Wilson, I've got tattered lace, the larger ones. Now with the tattered lace you didn't really get packaging that was suitable, so all I've done with that is I still chopped it up. I've put tattered lace there, and then I've done the name of it, and I've still done the same on the back with the actual magnetic sheet and the dies. Now you'll notice that the piece of paper is smaller, larger rather than the magnetic sheet. You want to try on the whole, I mean, I think I didn't always do it to start with, to be honest, but I realised very quickly that it, you know, it's valuable, and you want to keep as much as you can and use as little as you can on each particular packet and die set. So then at the top here I've got the smaller sort of mid-size boxes, drawers I should say, and these are CD cases. These are just nice good quality plastic. You don't want something too cheap because it would split. And then all I've done is exactly the same, just cut a piece of magnet. Now on some of these, this one for example, this was Crafters companion magnet sheets, and they had a white back to them. You could literally just cut and put your packaging pieces onto the back of the magnet sheet, so you didn't have to have that extra element, which made it a lot simpler. And I think it looks really smart, and you can't really, I don't think it looks nasty that you cut bits out or anything. And then you've got that on the back with your magnet and your elements. So that's all my say the sort of square size. And then behind I've got tattered lace. Now the tattered lace came in these packages, a lot of it, so that was great. I didn't have to redo it, and I didn't bother putting magnet on it either, unless if it came like that, because, and also the same with even mine, if it was an individual piece like this, one piece, then I didn't bother magnetizing it, because why do you just don't need to. It'll sit in the bottom totally fine. Now obviously normally I'm not struggling around you guys to get to this, so it works pretty well, and you can just get in nice and easily. Now the other thing that I did was if I was doing like this tattered lace one on my own, I kind of copied them. I still didn't use the magnet, just popped it in the bottom, and then I used my label maker, and I did a label for tattered lace, and then I did the label for the name of the die. Now if I didn't have a specific name, because a lot of these came from the front of a magazine or whatever, then I just sort of made it up. So like this was a tree line, just because now it could be what it was called, but it could be that I was just putting some sort of description down. So that is all of those. So in here is my Sue Wilson and my tattered lace, and then in this one we've got all spellbinders. So we've got the same sort of idea with this old packaging of spellbinders, because it had that picture on the front and it made it a lot simpler to be able to copy the idea as I did with the Sue Wilson, and then obviously magnet on the back. Exactly the same. I really like these square ones, to be honest. I wanted to try and make as many as I could fit into that, but on some of them, like this one, I cut it a bit smaller because the packaging was smaller, and I didn't put a magnet in because it was just a single piece, so that was all good. I tried to put them in some sort of order which I'll show you in more detail in the second part of this video, so that when we look at the actual, a little bit more detail at the actual dies themselves. But I tried to sort of like put my nesting ones, my corners or whatever all together, the same as I did with the collections on the Sue Wilson. Now on this one down here, it obviously being this sort of way round, it made it a little bit more fiddly because you couldn't put them in that way. But all I did was, because I don't want to waste the space, and I had some odd ones, some odd dies that didn't really belong in any kind of, there wasn't a lot of any of them, so it kind of worked quite well. So again, you can see a bit more detail here. These are just hunky-dory card actually, because it's nice and strong, so it stays, and it allows me to separate the sections so I can just pop through and see, you know, different manufacturer is what I was trying to say. So I've got all different ones in there, and the same again, you know, the same idea as much as possible. The Simon Says stamp came in the packaging, so that was easy. Sizzix, again, just labelled it up and put a bit of magnet on or not, so that was easy, because actually you can just about get the two across. It slightly overlaps, but it's not too bad, and as you can see, you can get quite a lot in there, and that worked really well for me. And then we did exactly the same with this one, but as you can see, this one is the one that I'm still filling up. I've got a lot of spellbinders still to put in there, and I think they're pretty much that size. Hopefully they are, because otherwise I'm stuffed. And then here I've got some more odd ones as well that have been filled in, and I've just popped them at the side there. So as I say, yeah, I have got some other categories as well, but they're pretty much all that size, and that's the box that needs to be filled. But you can see this is the new packaging. Personally, I don't prefer that, the way that it worked. I prefer the old one. I like to be able to see the entire picture on the front rather than that, but at least with this way you can at least turn it over and see the design. So that is the die storage on the shelving here. And then on this shelf here with the A4 ones, all I've got, and it's the same as in this box as well, so the parts inside the box are the same as these. I've got these A4 wallets that have just literally just got an opening at the top. You don't want the opening at the side because you could lose your dies really easily. So you've just got the opening at the top. Again, the same principle. I just took an A4 piece of paper. I think in this case it's actually not paper, it's just the, yeah, this is just the white of the magnetic sheet. Now with the Crafter's Companion magnetic sheet, it actually doesn't fit in this because it's got holes at the side, so it's actually bigger than this, so you just need to chop it down the side. But that's all I've done there. Put the label on there with my label maker, and then put a picture on the front, and then on the back obviously is my magnetics, and I've just added my dies. And then I've got my spellbinders, I've got my large tattered lace, so with that the same, I've just added the tattered lace there and put the dies on the back. So that's all the dies now on my shelves here. So then we're going to look at the dies that are just up the top and what I've done for those. Okay, so as I said, we've got that box, but first, so this end we've got my Sizzix. They come already in their boxes, in their packaging, however they're all loose. So what I did was I cut the back of the sheet off so I could see the dies. I then added a piece of magnetic sheet onto that header, as it were, and then I put the dies on it, because I think with that many dies it's much nicer and easier to have them like that. Now, however, there were a couple, like this pack here, for example, that you just couldn't do that for. There was just too many and it wasn't going to fit. It doesn't matter. All the best will in the world, some just aren't going to happen. So, and like this one, it's just too big. So I just left those. But this one, with all the sentiments, perfect. So that is those. And then just, I'm bypassing that box for a minute. At this end, I've got my stick it, and I just pop that there, and that's your sheet that you stick onto your paper, so that if you've got intricate dies, it gives a stickiness to the sheet, so that you can, when you die cut it, it's sort of all the little pieces are sticky for you. And then we've got a couple of different size packages here. So the first ones we've got are these large Sizzix wallets. And these are really nice. You get, I think, about 5 in a pack. So they're not, you know, the most economical. So I kind of saved them for the ones that I just had to. So for example, here I've got the diamond lattice. That's, again, I just added the magnetic sheet, let that stick to it, and then put the labelling on the front. So the principles across the packaging is the same, really. You just have different wallets according to the size that you need, but the idea of how I've done it is the same across the board. So that's your Sizzix ones. And then I've got these great little popper wallets. These are A5 popper wallets, and I just think they're great. And the great thing is, because they're just that little bit wider than a lot like the Avery L or some other ones that I had. So for something like this that's just that little bit wider, and they just didn't quite fit in the strictly A5 wallet that I've got here. This is a A5 wallet like the A4 wallet that we had down there in the box, but because it's strictly that, these didn't fit. This is like an A5 wallet, but it's designed to be a roomy one, a bit like an envelope, you know. It's not really, it's designed for an A5 card, the envelope, so it's bigger than A5. So this is the same sort of principle, I think. It's sort of designed to be that little bit more roomy. I think they kind of call it A5 large or something. So I've got quite a few of those, and I use those for a few different things, and I really like these wallets. And I've got the A4 popper wallets as well, and I've used those in a lot as well. So then just in here, in the box, the reason I kept these in the box is because they really slide about, but it is, I just showed you these are the sort of little wallets, exactly the same as the A4, with the opening at the top, and then exactly the same. Now you can see here I was being really economical with my magnetic sheets here, using up some of the scraps in order to make it work. You can see that die doesn't quite actually fit, it just sticks over the end, but it's good enough, and it just uses up all those odd elements as well, so it's kind of helpful. So then I put these in here just because these sort of packets slid around a bit, and it came with these kind of dividers, so I was able to divide them into different sections, different manufacturers, etc. So it kind of worked really well. But again, we'll look at those in more detail, the actual dies, in a little bit. So now that's all of the dies, sort of the storage of the dies. As I say, we'll look at the actual dies, a quick peek. I think we can't look at every single one, we'll be here till Christmas, but we'll have a quick little look, flick through them. But now let's look at the embossing folders. So embossing folders are all down here. So like my A4 dies, I've got embossing folders in this box. It's like a magazine box. It's jolly heavy as well now, and I've got in here my 8x8 embossing folders, just in packet, loose rather, and then my A4 embossing folders, and again I haven't got them in any packaging at all. And then all you need to do is, when you want one, you can just flick through, take the one you want and just pull it out. As I say, they're not in any packaging or anything like that, so it's really easy to handle. And as I say, I've got my A4 and my kind of 8x8 type ones in there. So then, as I showed you earlier, I've got my other embossing folders on the shelf here. So then I've got my smaller embossing folders, as I showed you before, on the couch unit on one of the shelves. And these, as I said to you, are those Deflecto boxes. Now, a little bit more fiddly to get out because they're further back, but basically all I've got is all my embossing folders, the sort of A6 and 5x7 ones, just in here. They're marked up, some of them with the names, and then down the side I've kind of got my border ones just laying down there as well. And the great thing is, because this box is just as it is, like this, a nice box, they just sit in there absolutely perfectly. And then we've got more over this side as well. These are my Spellbinder ones on the whole, so it's just perfect, and you get a heck of a lot in there. And again, like the other drawers, shelves I should say, I've got a little block at the back to stop them popping out, you know, popping back too far, so they just stay in the right position. So then the last thing, really, the storage solution side of this video, is stencils. Now with my stencils, I had originally put them in a different place, but I kept coming to this location to find them and then not remembering where I put them, so I figured that this was obviously naturally the place that they should be. So I've moved them up here, but I didn't really have anywhere to put them. I tried sliding them down the side here, sort of near the embossing folders, but it just didn't work. So what I did was I took one of these popper wallets in A4 and I just popped them in there and then slid them on top here. So that's my storage solutions for my dies and my embossing folders and my stencils, to let you see the actual items themselves. However, with dies and the embossing folders, etc., this is going to be quite difficult, I think, because there's just so many of them, and the embossing folders, I think, will almost be impossible to see. So I'm just going to sort of do a random pick and flick for you and let you have a quick look at some of them. So I'm going to take you over to the desk, because trying to hold these up in the air is going to be too heavy, and then we'll just have as I say, a little pick and flick at some of them, just so you can get a little idea of some of the dies, etc. Okay, so I thought I'd start with some of those larger A5 popper wallets that was on the top shelf. This is, as I say, just a pick and flick. This is not all of them by any stretch. I'm just grabbing a bundle just to show you some of them, just so you get a feel for the dies that I've got. But as I say, it's not all of them, because we would just be here forever. So you can see they looked quite similar until you turn them over. These are the Couture collection, which is a Create and Craft die. And then we've got the tattered lace notch squares here. I do have a habit of buying, and I love these nesting type dies. I do like those a lot. And you know I like my Sue Wilson. But anyway, these are my X-Cut. I really like X-Cut. And these are Build a Scene. So you get kind of like, it's almost like a tunnel and layering. And then we've got A5 envelopes. I don't know if it's an A5 envelope because it doesn't look big enough for an A5 envelope, but it's an A5 die. And then we've got a nativity scene from Tattered Lace. So that's a few of those up there, and I showed you a couple of the Sizzix ones already. So here is the one that's got the CD sized wallets in, and now you can see it out of the cabinet, you can see just how many, and there's still room for more in here, just how many you can get in. I mean, I don't even want to begin to count these. And so what I've done is, as I said to you, like this section here up to that marker is all my Sue Wilson, and then behind that I have tattered lace, and within each section to a certain extent I've sorted it. So for example, at the beginning here we've got the Indian Ocean. Now, I'm not going to massively show you the Sue Wilson because you would have, if you've watched any of the haul videos, you will have seen all of these dies. But what I'm saying is that, and I've got all these different collections right up to here, Christmas, etc. And then we've got the frames and tags all together. Then we've got sort of finishing touches together, etc. So I've taken it back in that way, the same sort of categories that Sue does. Whoops, I moved the whole map. And then behind that we've got the tattered lace. Now with that, what I've done is, like here I've got kind of elements, like individual things. So we've got here the lion, the elephant, dragon, little camper van, truck, etc. So then I've got after that, so that was kind of like animals, then vehicles, and then sort of baby stuff. And then we've got sort of random, really, they're items, sort of, rather than shapes, sort of like, so images, I guess, really. So we've got like little vintage handbag, and dresses, a cute little penguin, and one of my favourites, the little bumblebee. So then we've got, as I say, all these different things. Let's push those in tidy. And then still more like actual elements. So then we've got, so you can see you've got some that have got pictures on, some haven't. So even here, even though I've got, these are a couple of pieces of trees in there, I've still not put them on a magnet. Butterfly. I think a lot of those came out off the magazines. Whoops. And then, so these are still kind of, I'm just trying to see, that's all Christmas stuff. So let's just pull that up so I can find it. So you've got your reindeer, your sleigh, Christmas tree, a bauble, little Rudolph there. So that's all Christmas. So you can see, even though I haven't put cards in for each of the sections because it would just take up too much space. This is still Christmas. Then we've got nature, I suppose, birds. This is all birds here by the looks of it, and oh, that's the flowers, sorry, that goes with that section, that was the nature flowers. So there's some birds, and then in the next section I've got sort of flowers put together, flowers and leaves, rose and flowers. So even though they might not look sorted, they are. So I'm not going to go all the way back. That's just a sort of little sampling. And now this one is all spellbinders all the way to the back. And if you recall, there was the wider box as well that was pretty much empty because I haven't done the larger spellbinders yet. I've sort of left those as I found them that they didn't fit in here. I put them to one side and they'll all be done at once because it's easier when you're putting these into your packages, etc. It is easier to do like one size at a time if you can. So what I've done with these is, like, here is at the front here we've got all the nestings, and I've tried to put them into order. So for example, we've got labels 1 small, labels 1, scalloped labels 1, decorative labels one and petite labels one. And so that's all of those. And then we've got label 4, label 18, 19, 22, 27, decorative 27, 34, classic squares and beaded squares. So now we've got onto squares. So we did all the labels and now we've got squares, and that includes any kind of decorative type square shape. So anything that's sort of squarey I'll put in there, squarey. And then you've got to rectangles, for example, and then circles, anything sort of circle shaped, and those beautiful decorative. So you can see here the difference that to that. I personally prefer that old packaging, even for these when I've chopped it up. But you know, it's less important, I guess, now I'm chopping it up. So then we've got ovals and and then we've got two sort of tags, I guess, and more sort of decorative tags there. They're beautiful. And then sort of blossoms, so flowers, and then corners and flourishes, I think, really. And then lovely leaves. And then what have we got here? Sort of lily of the valley, flutter tree, feathers, eggs, poppies. So lots of things in there. And then we've got these, which are kind of your blooms one, and then papillon. So all sorts in here. What have we got back here? Oh, the medallions. And then at the back we've got sentiments and Christmas. So that's again just a quick flick through our dies in that drawer. So then I just wanted to show you this one. This is obviously the thinner drawer that went down the side of that wide one, and in this one, and the second one as well, I've put kind of the odds, the ones that I've got one or two of. I mean, the Simon Says stamp here is probably the one I've got one of the biggest sections that is in this, and I do love Simon Says stamp dies, I have to say. So that's those. And then, as I say, we've got some odd ones, like here's some cottage cuts. Not odd as in they're peculiar, odd as in I've only got a couple of them. I don't know why I've got an extra piece of card there. So then I've got some Sizzix little tags. I think I showed you one of those already. Some Sizzix ovals. And then I've got some more of the couture ones that just fitted in here. So we've got a few of those. And then I've got these lovely Crafter's Companion kimono dies. Isn't that lovely? And then La La Land, little Eiffel Tower. And one of my favourite dies, actually. I love that banner. I don't know why. Just love it. And then Dynamics. Oh, here we go. These are randoms, I think. These are ones I've only got one of. So we've got Dynamics. This came with a magazine, I think. That's just some banners. And then Ultimate Crafts. And some clouds. And then behind here I've got some tonic. I love tonic dies. I've got some more tonic somewhere, some larger ones. So they're going to be in that other box that isn't got anything much in it. I love their sentiments, but the larger dies that I've got from Tonic are so cool. They've got some lovely like latticey type ones, etc. So that's those. And then I'll just show you the ones within the one of the ones in the larger box. So as you can see, again, this is very full, and yet look, still got, if you squidge it up, you've still got loads of room in there. It's amazing just how much you can get in. It's surprising. So here I've got all my Sue Wilson at the front here, up to that point there. Now again, with the Sue Wilson, I'm not going to particularly spend any time showing you those. Then we've got tattered lace. So I've got, these are the swing adapters for the half dies. I don't personally find I need those, but anyway, so you've got the nesting ones again, really helpful, I like those. Then we've got some decorative ones, isn't that beautiful? And then behind that I've got another tag, and I've got my more couture. These are so pretty when you put them on the top of a card. There we go, it's much easier that way, isn't it? And then you've got something like this. This is the closures. So it makes like on the gatefold card. I mean, just as in its basic form. And then we've got the X-cut that needed the bigger dogs, cats, sewing. I love that. And they're really nice dies as well. And then, oh, some of the tonic. One tonic that's larger. And then one Simon Says stamp as well that's a larger one. So that's that. So that's a little sampling. I haven't shown you a couple of the drawers, but it's just a little sampling of the dies I've got. I mean, as you can see, it would take forever if we looked at every single one, but I think it gives you an idea of the kind of thing I have and like in dies. So I'm not going to show you embossing folders because they really don't show up until you actually do embossing. So I'm not going to get too worried about that, but I will show you the templates because I've got some more coming from some more Tim Holtz and some more Creative Expressions, I think. Well, I don't think I've ordered the Creative Expressions yet, but I've got them ready to order. But I have ordered the Tim Holtz. So we've got this great wall. I love this one from Simon Says Stamp. I love their templates, and I love things like this, that's scene building. So cool. You can see I've used that a lot. And then some snow, some lovely dots. This is nice. And this one is another one of my favourites. I don't know why, I just love this shape. It came with the indigo blue clock set that I got. And these ones you saw in the Creative Expressions haul video that was up the other day. These are the brand new ones. And as I say, I've got some more that I wanted to order from them. And I've also got some Tim Holtz ones that I've got on order. So that's those. And then two more, which is so cool. And these, what I was talking about, you've got the holes in the top here, so you can easily put those on a ring. So that is it. So that is my template storage, or my mask storage, or my stencil storage, whatever you want to call it. And you can see it fits really nicely in that wallet. And I think, you know, if you needed some more space, if you've got a lot of them, then probably putting them on a ring would be a good idea. As I say, I may well do that. But that otherwise that is it. That is my die, stencil and embossing folder storage and mini sort of craft haul room tour video on that one. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look at how I store my dies. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you enjoyed having a little peek into some of the dies and stuff that I have actually put in my storage system. All the details with regard to all the stuff I've shown you today, not the actual dies themselves, but the storage stuff, will be on the blog post. It can't go on YouTube, it just doesn't have the space for it, so it needs to actually go on the blog post, and it'll have all the links there as well. So all you need to do if you want to go to the blog post is, if you're on this video on YouTube, underneath it is a paragraph and it says show more. Click that, and then in that paragraph underneath that it says corresponding blog post, and there's a link. Just click on that and it will take you to the blog post that goes with this video, and it will have all the info and all the links with all the details as best as I can about the tray, about the drawers, the wallets, everything that I could find and think of I've put on there for you so that you can see exactly what I used. So I hope you find it useful, and thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to come back and watch all the others as well. Alright, see you again soon. Bye. Bye.